In recent years, the geopolitical landscape of Northeast Asia has undergone a significant shift. What was once a set of loosely aligned relationships among China, Russia, and North Korea is increasingly evolving into a more coordinated, though still informal, strategic alignment. This emerging triangle is not a formal alliance in the traditional sense, but it is nonetheless reshaping regional security dynamics and raising global concerns about long-term stability. The roots of this alignment are not new. China and North Korea have maintained a formal defense relationship since the 1961 Treaty of Friendship, Cooperation, and Mutual Assistance, which remains Beijing's only such treaty globally. Meanwhile, North Korea and Russia formalized their own strategic partnership in 2024, including mutual defense commitments, signaling a return to Cold War-style cooperation. China and Russia, for their part, have built a deep strategic partnership based on shared interests rather than a formal alliance. Both countries seek to counterbalance U.S. influence and reshape the international order, but they remain cautious about binding commitments that could limit their autonomy. The convergence of these relationships is driven by several structural factors: shared opposition to Western dominance, particularly U.S.-led alliances; economic complementarities, especially China's role as North Korea's primary trade partner; security interdependence, with Russia and North Korea increasingly cooperating militarily. The most striking recent development is the rapid expansion of military cooperation, especially between Russia and North Korea. Reports indicate that North Korea has provided both weapons and manpower to support Russia's war in Ukraine, including the deployment of thousands of troops under their 2024 partnership treaty. At the same time, North Korea continues to accelerate its weapons programs. Frequent missile tests in 2026, including submarine-launched systems, demonstrate a growing emphasis on nuclear deterrence and strategic signaling. China's role is more nuanced. While it avoids direct military alignment, it is increasing diplomatic and economic engagement with Pyongyang and maintaining close strategic coordination with Moscow. Recent high-level visits and renewed trade flows suggest Beijing is reasserting influence over North Korea while supporting a broader anti-Western alignment. This creates a layered security dynamic. Russia and North Korea maintain direct military cooperation and mutual defense. China and North Korea share an economic lifeline and political backing. China and Russia coordinate strategy at the global level. This emerging alignment is not a rigid bloc like NATO, but rather a flexible, interest-based coalition. Analysts often describe it as anchored by China and Russia, with North Korea acting as both a beneficiary and a strategic tool. For North Korea, closer ties with Russia provide access to advanced military technology, diplomatic support in international forums, and greater leverage in negotiations with China and the West. For Russia, North Korea offers military supplies and manpower, as well as a way to stretch Western attention across multiple theaters. For China, the benefits are more indirect: strategic pressure on U.S. allies in Asia, a buffer state in North Korea, and increased influence in any future negotiations on the Korean Peninsula. The consequences for regional security are substantial. First, deterrence dynamics are becoming more complex. South Korea, Japan, and the United States now face not just a nuclear-armed North Korea, but one increasingly backed, directly or indirectly, by two major powers. Second, arms race pressures are intensifying. North Korea's expanding nuclear capabilities, combined with China's growing arsenal and Russia's nuclear signaling, are raising concerns among NATO and Indo-Pacific allies. Third, alliance polarization is deepening. The region is increasingly divided between a U.S.-led bloc including the United States, South Korea, and Japan, and a loosely aligned China-Russia-North Korea grouping. This polarization reduces diplomatic flexibility and increases the risk of miscalculation. Despite growing cooperation, this alignment has clear limitations. No formal trilateral alliance exists, and coordination is often indirect rather than institutionalized. China remains cautious about North Korea's unpredictability and Russia's military adventurism. North Korea seeks autonomy, using its relationships with both powers to maximize leverage rather than becoming dependent on either. In fact, some evidence suggests China is uneasy with the depth of Russia-North Korea military ties, which could destabilize the region or provoke stronger U.S. alliances. Looking ahead, several trends are likely to define the trajectory of this evolving alignment. First, continued but uneven integration. Cooperation will likely deepen, especially in military and technological domains, but remain informal and pragmatic rather than institutionalized. Second, North Korea as a pivotal actor. Pyongyang will continue to play a balancing role, leveraging both China and Russia to secure economic aid, military support, and diplomatic space. Third, increased regional militarization. The Indo-Pacific is likely to see further military buildup, including missile defenses, nuclear modernization, and expanded joint exercises among U.S. allies. Fourth, greater global implications. This alignment is not confined to Asia. It intersects with conflicts such as the war in Ukraine and broader competition over the global order, making it a key factor in 21st century geopolitics. Fifth, risk of crisis escalation. While a full-scale war remains unlikely, the probability of localized crises, missile tests, naval incidents, or proxy confrontations will increase as tensions rise. The China-Russia-North Korea alignment represents a significant shift in global power dynamics. It is not a formal alliance, but its cumulative effects are real: enhanced military cooperation, strategic coordination, and a shared interest in challenging Western influence. What makes this alignment particularly consequential is its flexibility. Unlike rigid alliances, it can adapt quickly to changing circumstances, making it harder to deter and more difficult to predict. For policymakers and analysts, the key challenge will be understanding not just the strength of this alignment, but its limits, internal tensions, and evolving strategic logic. Those factors will ultimately determine whether it stabilizes the region through balance or destabilizes it through competition. Follow us for more.